Well, hello, Amy. How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Leighton. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So typically what I'll do is when we have a new guest is ask them to tell us a little bit about themselves, their background, and how they ended up to where they are today.
My name's Amy Smyth. I'm a photographer, firstly, a filmmaker, a herbalist, and a mother. And I discovered regenerative agriculture when I was studying herbal medicine. I was given a class in regenerative farming, and my herbal teacher got us planting cover crop seeds. And we put the seeds in, and then I think maybe it was about 3 months later, we come back and the cover crops have just sprouted. And she shows us how when you put your hands in the soil, how cool it is beneath these plants. And this is in Malibu, where it was really hot, but in this little garden, everything is cooler because they put in trees and they put all these cover crops and the ground was covered. And I was just hooked. I actually cried when I first, because I saw how simple it could be to cool the earth and fix carbon. And so from that moment on, I've been learning everything I can. Cut forward 8 years, and I've been working with you, Leighton, on telling your story with the Muncher team.
Yeah. So what is Hubble? Is that like herbology?
Oh, herbalism, herbal medicine.
Okay. So it's you're actually making medicine using plants and herbs.
Yes.
Very cool. I've heard it being called herbology, but never Hubble. So that's a.
Oh, I think I just spoke really quickly. I said herbology.
Herbology. Okay, it's your accent.
Yeah, it's my accent.
Where are you from? Are you England or Australia?
I'm British. I'm from London.
Gotcha. Always wondered, but never asked. Anyway. So yeah, I don't remember exactly how we got in contact, but we did that first garden together down in Malibu by the river there.
Yeah, I was working on that project. We were doing a land restoration project called Surf Canyon in Malibu, and we'd taken a space that had a drilling company on it, and we had this highly compacted soil that we wanted to turn into a farm. And we got a big pile of compost from you. I was connected to you through Casey and Keisha.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So they were helping us, and then they told us that we could get our compost from you. I wanted a fungal dominant compost because I'd learn about that from a regenerative farmer I met, and you were the guy that made it.
Yes. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to compost making. So I got an opportunity to watch the movie that you have created, or the documentary. And Amy, I can't say enough. I mean, you literally had me tearing up when I watched it. That was one of the most beautiful and inspirational things that I've seen in a long time. I mean, I left there going, when I finished it, I'm like, I got to do more. I'm not doing enough. And I know you have other videos out there too. Do you have a website, or where can people see your work?
So just to sort of fill you in a little bit on my background, I sort of skipped forward to when I met you, but there was this period of time in between me studying herbal medicine in LA on a farm in Malibu. And during COVID, my husband and I bought a school bus, and we decided we were going to go traveling. And with my children. So we converted a school bus, and we went round Western America visiting regenerative farms, meeting farmers, and just asking a ton of questions because I'm incredibly curious. And I just was putting together all these pieces of what it actually meant to be a regenerative farmer. And I thought I was going to make a ton of films, but in reality, I was looking after 2 children. And my husband was working as we were going, and living in a bus and traveling. It's a lot of work. So I was teaching myself to make small films, and so we'd visit a farm and I'd make a little film, and then maybe another couple of months later I'd make another one, but nothing very significant. And it wasn't until the end of our trip that a farm that we were meant to go to cancelled, And so I quickly looked and I found another one around the corner. I went to this farm called Grass Valley Farm, where I met a farmer called Corey Miller, and he was hosting a compost workshop as part of his offering. So you stay on these farms, and the farmer is usually offering something, and his offering was this compost workshop. So I went to that, and he explained his process, and I was just blown away by what he was doing. I was like, this is so fascinating. He was making Johnson Sioux bioreactors and just spreading it out on his land and having just incredible results. And he had these amazing fields where you could see where he hadn't used the compost extract and where he had. And I was like, we just have to get this on camera. So we made this film together, and I stuck it on my YouTube channel, which I think at the time had like, very few followers, maybe my mum and some aunts and stuff. And then this film just took off. And I've lost track of how many views it got, but it got a lot, and it was farmers all around the world. And they were calling Corey to just, learn about his methods. And he was getting calls from just everywhere. It was so exciting. He's become a bit of a voice in Regen Ag now as well. He's an eloquent speaker, an incredible teacher. And it was just so, so great to see the power of this little YouTube film and the effect it was having on these farmers. So I was hooked. I just want to help. And I do think that, like, from what I've seen, regenerative agriculture, these quite simple methods can be the most effective way to affect change. Feeding the soil is the key.
Oh, agreed 100%. And, as a person who studies deeply the understanding of the relationship between all of these different communities of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, etc., the most powerful papers have come out in the last couple of years that really explain it. So, I spent years, over 15, maybe even close to 17 years now, making compost extracts. I started with teas, but I quickly learned that there had to be a better way. And by doing, like a serious extract, not just taking a little bag and a bucket, squeezing it, but by using force, you can extract this, what I call lovingly chocolate water. And so there was this woman out of Colorado State. Her last name is Cartufa. I forget her first name, but she started talking about dissolved organic matter and how in the soil organic matter pool, only 1% to 2% is this dissolved organic matter. And typically it's the exudates leaked out by the plant. And I saw this, incredible plant reactions and was like, well, what's going on here? Well, why are they reacting this way to this, extract? And so basically she explained in this paper that the only two ways are if you get a rainstorm and it goes through that top little organic layer, which is usually very thin, and it leaks down a little bit of humic acid, or the exudates. Well, if the plant doesn't have to create the exudates to support the biology that's mining the sandstone clay in organic matter, or out of the organic matter in the sandstone clay, then the plant doesn't have to work as hard. So the plant can shift all of its energy to either vegetative growth or fruit growth. And so that's why we see the reaction that we do, because we're fire hosing this very precious exudate or alternative to exudates right into the plant's rhizosphere. So that's what makes it work. And that was the exciting thing about meeting Mo and going through the last 3+ years with them and really unlocking what they had done. Because in my mind, they really weren't making dissolved organic matter, but at the end, they clearly were. And just in a different form, right? So all of the nutrients and minerals that were bound up in the food, let alone the endophytes. So those are biology that lives in the fruit, on the fruit, in the seeds, all around it. And he created a perfect environment for them to come out. Instead of staying in cyst form, they just release. So a really interesting thing that I observed just recently playing around with a prototype to help the ecosphere science team have a smaller model that's way more affordable. I saw an endophyte or a flagellate release like I had never seen before. Like I saw literally like the whole view was flagellates everywhere. And it was so impressive that I sent it down to Andy Marsh to have her, just verify that I wasn't seeing things. And she came back, yeah, that was crazy. It was really crazy what was there. And she goes, based on what you described, I think the sample degraded some over the 7 days it took to get to her. It's supposed to be there in 4. It ended up taking 7. I don't know why. But needless to say, I reached out to Dr. James White and I said, we talked a lot about endophytes. And the last time I had him on the podcast, he alluded to the fact that there are actually protozoa in the endophytic world. And we haven't really got down the rabbit hole as are they inside the plant cell, or are they in between the plant cells? And so one of the questions I asked him was, do you think that the protozoas are dividing to the point where they're actually becoming like fish eggs? They're the whole outer cell, all the way around the cell is just all protozoa in the cyst form that only come out in the right environment. And he goes, that's a really good question. So I spun his wheels a little bit. I'm sure he's going to read or deep dive onto that. But again, it's like this amazing thing that's happening in these environments when you create the perfect place for the biology to be released. And of course, when you put it on the soil, they're already active and they've got everything they need. And now they start going to work because every soil has plenty of bacteria. So it's now they're just grazing. You've given them the food source. You've delivered them with food, water, and cover. And I don't know, Amy. It's amazing to be alive and at this point in time with the amount of data testing and all this new information that's come out post COVID. I mean, it's been a fire hose of information, and it's so great to have people like you in the lives of people like me, because you unpack it in a way that's totally believable. It's not snake oil, and I'm very frustrated with the present products on the market, whether they're bioinoculants or biostimulants. They don't have anything close to this. That's so I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I get so much pleasure out of amplifying voices that need to be heard, because there probably aren't that many soil scientists and soil engineers that can pick up a camera and tell a story in the way that I do. So we're the perfect pair. And, I hope that more of this can happen, that more filmmakers come together with more of these people who are getting this new information and new data. And, in your world that you're in, it's just discovery after discovery all the time, and that's accelerating obviously hugely. I'm sure AI is going to start playing a big part in this as well. I don't know how that's being used in your profession, but certainly like the capacity to unlock data is speeding up. And you're seeing this with the Muncher itself. They're actually in the field now doing the studies, getting these amazing results. And, everyone's just getting excited about, the possibilities of what it can do next. Breaking down all the successive dairy waste. Like, I'm so excited to see what happens there.
Oh, 2026 is going to be amazing. So we are presently working on a collaboration with Los Alamos National Labs. And we will have actual test data back by the end of this year. We also just finished a presentation for the SBA grants that work through Los Alamos. So the SBA provides money or tax credits to LANL for testing. And when we originally started talking with them, we were connected with a PI, which is not private investor, primary investigator. and basically had a couple low-level meetings and impressed them to the point that they put together an A team. So the top scientists in multiple disciplines, which has never been done in Atlanta before. They always are, one discipline will look at a project, but because of what Muncher Juice does, from creating aggregates to turning sand into silt and clay, affecting plants the way it just does, we have, I think, 6, 7 members of Lanel, all interdisciplinary. So I can't wait to at some point, I want you to think about maybe going to New Mexico and doing a shoot down there. We're going to be, if we get this grant, we're going to be working on 3 different farms on scale, potentially working in hundreds of acres, not small plots, and can really showcase both with the data that Lanel accumulates, as well as the farmers' reactions. And we're doing definitely hay and alfalfa. And one of the participants is a veterinarian, which I'm extremely excited to have on board, because she will see what I saw in the past when I did biologicals on hay fields. The people that purchased the hay from the farmer kept coming back going, I need that. I need more of that. My animal's discipline or disposition, health, clear eyes, nice glossy coated fur. I mean, it really went through the whole animal, affected its overall health. So this could be an incredibly documentation that you could be a part of.
Yeah, and I'm excited to sort of put it out for debate as well, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who will have opinions on this. I'm interested to see which soil scientists pick that up and start to explore it and ask to get samples themselves. Right now it's like you and Andy are very familiar with the results, but I think that the more minds that can get behind this, the better.
You are spot on, because there's a huge difference between what I do as a soil biologist and soil engineer and what soil scientists do. Soil scientists have only been taught NPK. They don't know anything about biology. As a matter of fact, they're told repeatedly, don't worry about biology. It's not part of the picture. It's only chemistry and geology. Those are the 2 things that affect plants. Well, we now know that no, we're losing all the nutrition from the plants because we don't have the biology converting those nutrients into plant available forms. So yeah, I mean, the more people that can see, these documentaries, especially, that was, you did incredible work in, what was it, 24 minutes, 25 minutes? That's not a long commitment. That's not 2 hours. That's not 2.5 hours. That's something that you can watch very quickly. And like I said, it's not only moving, but it's inspirational to the point where, if I was a soil scientist and I did have a closed mind toward soil biology, I would step back and go, wait a minute, what am I missing in my practices? Again, if you watch Kiss the Ground or what was the other one? The other movie, oh God, it was
by the same director.
Well, they're doing more of them, but it was a different director, different story. It wasn't Kiss the Ground. It came out, I think, before it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Those movies, because as much as they were kind of like a documentary, they were more of a movie style.
Oh, was it Biggest Little Farm? Biggest Little Farm?
Biggest Little Farm.
I love that film so much.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I loved Biggest Little Farm because this guy, I met them. I actually got a chance to talk to Ben and Molly at length. And, and I complimented him. I said, dude, you put yourself out there. Like, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position in, allowing these people to basically, document you in these complicated situations where you had failure after failure, you know, losing all your chickens, losing all your ducks, ponds draining because of irrigation failures. That was amazing. The thing that and also how he worked with the permaculturists and they came up with that design. That was all beautiful, super well done. But it was more of a film and not necessarily an educational piece. And same with
very inspiring though. I mean, like, that film changed my life. That opened the door for me to think about regenerative agriculture for sure. Great starting point. But I think where we're at now is like, okay, how do we action this? And where I'm a little different from those filmmakers who I admire hugely, they are much larger scale. Like, I'm a one woman. I shoot, I edit, I produce, and I get out in the field, and I'm really focused on farmer to farmer films, and to the biologists and the scientists. And I'd like to think a wider audience would be interested in this much of film as well. But my real focus is getting this information to the farmers, because there are conservationists and they need action points and they need inspiration. And a lot of them are in not a very good place right now, need a lot of hope. So this, for me, is just like, this is a real path through.
Yeah. And again, like taking commercial compost that has very little biology in it, if any. It's got bacteria, but it doesn't have protozoa, fungi, and nematodes. And having someone like Dave Camarillo, who's been doing this for a long time, get all excited. I mean, you were around him. He was jumping like a jumping jack. He was so excited because he'd never seen this before in his compost.
I'm really excited for him to see the film.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get really excited. He's gonna show his brother. That'll circulate around Agriman. They'll bust his chops, I'm sure, but it still is like so cool that because he's into it, right? He did go down the soil food web rabbit hole, and none of those other guys are into it or understand the value of it. But for a farmer to say, hey, buy a couple gallons of muncher juice, dump that on your pile, that whatever crop residues you have left at the end of the season, and come back, 6 months later, and you're going to have, an entire ecosystem in that pile. That's very powerful. One of my clients, Kyle Moot, who's a corn and bean farmer, I think he's 500 acres in Ohio. We started working together, 22, I think it was, maybe 21. And one of the things I kept telling him was like, I'm going to ship you down a couple yards of compost to get you going, right? But every time you do a batch in the yogurt maker, make sure whatever you don't use, you throw into the compost pile for next season. And he's done it. And to the point where we talked yesterday, and he's like, I go, where are you getting all your compost from? He goes, I'm a farmer. I listen to you. I did exactly what you said, and I have the most amazing compost now, and I just keep adding to the pile. Like, he gets his mother's vegetable garden drops, and everything. Every time he makes a batch, anything that's left over, he dumps on it, or if he's got extra liquid after spraying the fields, he sprays it. So any farmer can do this. They just need that inoculation, that jump start. And I think the message that you created can inspire them that if we can turn commercial, basic compost, organic matter, and again, no biology, into a biologically rich substrate, they can too, right? And very cost effectively. That's something else that was
he used a chemical tote. So most farmers who are doing chemical agriculture, they have that, and then you just cut the top off.
Yep.
And repurpose it, make your extract in that.
Exactly. And it doesn't take much. I mean, you can be as simple as a cordless drill with a big long mixer on the end of it, paint mixer. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I've used everything from cement mixers to washing machines. You saw my washing machine.
I love the washing machine, and I've had the extract from it, and I put it on my garden, and it's thriving. So I'm very grateful for that. I'll be coming back for more.
Yeah, I knew you were going to get reaction. I wanted to call you like so many times. Like, no, I'm going to leave her alone. I know she's busy. You got a wife, or a husband, and kids, and you're running
No,
around.
I'm always happy to talk about my garden. Come on, anytime. I'm hoping to catch Mo on his way back down to San Diego as well, and go and get some mancha juice on my garden.
There you go. There you go. I think he's coming back soon. He's been delayed a couple times up there, but they're waiting on one farmer to sign some paperwork so they can do another experiment up there. But hopefully he gets released soon, because I think he's been up there for like a month now.
Months, yeah. No, it seems like it.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Kyle. So I got Kyle 2 totes of the extract that we made at Agerman, and he applied it to his cornfield and had tremendous results. So now we're in the process of, he's like either today or tomorrow, he's going to go select some ears of corn from the field that he treated, along with a neighbor's field that is just purely NPK. And we're sending that out for nutritional testing. So now we'll have all of the minerals that the plant is available in the plant for human or animal consumption, along with all of the, what I want to call the extras, like protein, carbohydrate. There's a few of them. But in the last test we did with Kyle, he had a good bump up, at least 20% increase in the values that you're looking for. But my gut feeling is with Muncher juice, he's going to have another level, just based on what I've seen and the testing we've done so far. And unfortunately, we've never been able to actually get a full panel, a nutritional panel done. I did a grow the first winter with them. I got some Muncher juice and poured it on, or grew some arugula plants, actually to what do we call him, a nurseryman who grows trees, because I wanted it to be grown by a third party. I didn't want to be the one actually physically growing it, because then it's kind of like could be considered taking advantage of the information. And unfortunately, it was that first winter we had all that rain. Remember that cold winter? I think it was 22.
Yeah.
You hadn't had rain for years, and all of a sudden it was like raining all the time. And so the plants were stunted. So we didn't get enough plant material to actually get the full panel. We got some, but not nearly what I wanted from that. So this will be the first time that we actually get a full panel to use as data to compare Muncher juice to NPK, which would be fantastic.
I mean, this has been the challenge, right? It's like having those fields to play with, and having the farmers that are willing to just like get you to put that straight into their crop. Like, that's why Matt, who's in the film, was amazing, because he was just like, yeah, I'll put it in my pistachio fields. I get this biology thing. I can see why this would work. Let's see if it works. And then we've got him on camera, like reviewing the data, and he's just like, yeah, it works.
That is the hard part. And it always has been, is getting the commitment, because these farmers are terrified. They're gamblers. They gamble every year, everything that they have, all their labor, all their money, in the hope that they actually get a crop that they can sell. Come on, Paul. Come on. Don't be shy. Come on. And so, that fear of adversely affecting their crop in a negative way. And plus, a lot of the farm insurance requires you use NPK, because they can't control it. Because if you have the proof and the receipts that you bought X amount of pounds or tons, and they trust that you're actually going to apply it to your field, that provides them data that says, okay, you did the best you could. So a tornado came by, or you got hailed on, or you didn't get rain. And that's so that fear of, not having that fallback crop insurance really prevents them from, jumping in like Matt did. And, that is rare. That's very rare. I mean, I had to nurture Kyle very slowly. And the first year that he jumped in, I was on the phone pretty much every day, for at least an hour, with him being fearful. Like, oh my God, if this doesn't work, you don't understand. I'm not going to get crop insurance, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, trust the process, Kyle. Trust the process. And that's not easy to do, Amy. It really is.
No, I really feel for him, because that is such a huge theme that I've seen with these farmers is, the fear of failure is real. And a lot of people are already very close to the line in the first place. Like, it's hard to make money out of farming. And so, but what we know is once you take those steps and start transitioning, well, suddenly you're in a place where you could be a really profitable farm, because you're making a really high nutriently dense produce, higher than anyone else, that's resilient to pests. You don't need to use pesticides and fungicides, because the plant has got so much strength and resilience from the nutrients within it that it has this force field that protects it.
And that's a great way of putting it, force field. It literally is. I mean, bugs can't see it. They used to laugh when we would say, oh, well, if you get your bricks level up a certain level, the bugs can't see it. And they're like, well, yeah, you're full of, this is woo-woo, it's nonsense. But science has documented over the last few years that that's exactly the case. The plant is vibrating at a certain level that it's releasing a color that doesn't show up on their radar. It's the only sick plants they can see, the stress child plants.
Yeah, and if the plant's not doing well, it sends a signal to these insects, and it's like, I'm fair game. I want to go back into the cycle of life and start again.
That's the thing that people don't understand, that these insects are our friends. They're trying to protect the consumer of that plant from consuming something that's not healthy. And you're right, the plant wants to go back and try again, right? So, if we get out of the way and let nature do its thing, it's super powerful. But that's the problem, is that we, as humans, have lost our connection and our respect for the soil and the water and
the plants.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that we have 5 senses, that the plants have as many as 20. I think the number is.
It's proven 10, but there is some understanding that there are probably a lot more senses that we don't yet quite understand, and are perhaps out of the range of our ability to test for them. But some of the really cool stuff on their singing, like, I'm sure you've seen the clips where they put the 2 electrodes on the plants and they sing, and and they make different noises at different times of the day. When they're shutting down, it's one thing. During the peak of the day, it's a different tone, or almost a song, for lack of better words, because it's not just a tone; it's a range of tones. So that's another thing that really hasn't been fully said. Okay, this is definitely another sense. It's a voice. It's a communication. So yeah, there's 10 for sure. And I think we have 5 for sure. And if you count gut feelings, ESP, or being able to feel, like being an empath, feel energy, those are potentially a few more, or a couple more. But bottom line is that, I love asking this question. I think I've probably asked you, is who's growing who?
I was talking to Ken about that earlier. It was like, it's bacteria just behind everything. Maybe they're the ones pulling the strings, or the fungi. Who knows who's on top? It's a web, right? It's an intricate web between all beings, and we're not at the top. We're definitely not. We're part of an intricate system.
So we know for sure what bacteria is, right? And we know for sure what animals and mammals are. We don't know for sure what fungi is. That's crazy. And fungi is closer to us than anything else, humans. and that's also a fact. And if you step back and really think about that, that's kind of trippy, because fungus does so many different things, whether it's the interaction with different plants and transferring nutrients biology in the case of mycorrhizae. If it's the fact that saprophytic create mine the organic matter and release these organic acids into the soil that support other life. There's all kinds of bugs and animals that eat fungi, and I'm talking below ground. And now when you really go to fruiting, like truffles, which are below ground, or mushrooms, which are above ground, there's all kinds of different mushrooms that have all kinds of different medicinal properties. And as an herbologist, you probably know this better than I do, whether it's from healing your mind through psychedelics, or whether it's consumption of something like an oyster mussage oyster that'll clean you out. It's an amazing, for lack of better words, entity that we need to spend a lot more time to kind of unlock what its potential is and what its properties are, so that we can better define it.
This is another area where information is accelerating, isn't it? It's gone from quite a niche, small group of mycologists and foragers to suddenly this is it's a hot spot. And we all saw that amazing film, Fantastic Fungi, and that kind of inspired a lot of people. And then, it's a whole rabbit hole that you can go down. And I met a guy at a farmer's market who was selling Amanita mushroom. Do you know what that looks like?
No.
The magic red and white mushroom.
Oh, okay.
Which is so part of our psyche, but we've all, if you look around, it's in our computer games. It's like we design with it. It's in our wallpapers and our fairy tales, but it's like this, very magical mushroom that we all know to be poisonous and deadly. But it turns out that's not the case. And I'll be tentative about saying this because no one should go out there and do your own research, find out. But I saw it in the farmer's market and I was like, isn't that deadly poisonous? I study herbal medicine. How could you be selling this? And he's like, no. And he puts me in contact with this guy. And we had this amazing conversation about how it can, if prepared in the right way and taken in the right amounts, can really help people get over insomnia and help people taper off benzodiazepines. And it's just we're just at the beginning of understanding this. And right now this mushroom is legal, by the way.
Yeah.
It's fair game for anyone who's interested, but historically it is known to be poisonous. So it's really curious to me. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Got to go down the rabbit hole and find out what this is all about.
Yeah, you gotta give credit to those people that were trying to send us messages.
Rick says when Super Mario eats one, he gains a life. There you go. And actually I think it's a master herbal medicine, kind of in the realms of some of these psychedelics, but not as psychedelic, but known to be a master herbal medicine. So do your research.
Yes. Always do your research. Don't trust everybody for everything. But yeah, I think a lot of ways that's why they told us that it was poisonous, because they didn't want us expanding our consciousness, getting the ability to free think or forward think, critical think, all these things that basically this and other things have taken away from us.
And magical thinking, which is one of my favorite. But what I love most about this is it's like a plant creates certain compounds that it needs to create in order to survive. And then those compounds can be used as medicines to protect us. That's wild. So the plant is stationary, so it has to create all these amazing defense mechanisms in order to survive. It doesn't get to run away from things. It's just there in one spot. And just that connection between our bodies and these plants, to me, is magical thinking. It's science, but it's just also the magic that we're all missing.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, before we were all convinced by Rockefeller that pharmaceuticals were the new future, all we did was go to herbologists, right? There was no such thing as powders and pills and all this nonsense that has proven to be horrible for our psyche, our bodies, addiction. So, again, like these kinds of conversations we're having here, documentaries that you've done, kind of open people's eyes to the fact that there is so much more to it. And food was medicine. Like, you didn't get sick. Like, I don't know how old you are, I don't care. I grew up in the 60s, but we never went to the doctor. Only if we broke something, like broke a bone or had, big gash and needed stitches. Yeah. Otherwise, my mother would call the doctor and say, hey, Leighton's ran a 103-degree temperature for 3 days. Do I ice bath him or do I bring him down? He'd just say, throw him in the ice bath. Boy, did I hate those things. So, like a cat, they're pushing on me and I'm fighting. But I was typically, when I got a fever, it was, above the safe range, as they say. Like you get above 103, you're potentially going to cause brain damage. So,
oh, wow, you're living close to the edge, Leighton.
Well, I have, like, every time I go to the doctor, they're like, "Oh, you need high blood pressure medicine. You're running hot," and I'm like, "No, that's me." Like, finally I got a cool doctor back in Massachusetts that instead of just telling me you got to take these pills, he said, "All right, you need to get your health certificate because you drive a truck over a certain GVW, gross vehicle weight. And in order for you to get that, part of it is your blood pressure, which I don't know why that has anything to do with it. It should be eyesight, cognitive thinking, like no disabilities per se, or disabilities that affect the way you drive. But anyway, so what he would do is he'd shut off the lights and say, I want you to meditate. Just, close your eyes, slow your breathing down as slow as you can possibly do, and just lay here for 30 minutes, and then I'll come back. And he'd come back, and sure as shit, I was down low enough to pass. But otherwise, during the day, I'm hyper. I'm like, my brain is going a million miles a minute. I'm running around doing all these different things. And so, that's the kind of situation where if you do get on those high blood pressure meds, the next thing you know, you got to have another pill. Oh God, you got to have a statin, I think is what they're called, that prevent you from clotting, right? So now your blood flows a lot more. Like if I get cut, that thing stops bleeding in minutes. My brother-in-law, who's on one of those blood thinners, he gets a cut, damn, he's bleeding like stuffed pig. And so then all of a sudden now you need another pill to prevent you from bleeding out because you're on this other pill. I mean, it's just a freaking system.
Well, it becomes whack-a-mole at that point, because then you're opening yourself up to all these, illnesses that are ultimately caused by these medicines and the side effects. I don't think you should take anything for a long period of time, personally, unless you really have to. Obviously, some people need these medications and they do have their place. But, I like to think, like, if you've got something that's an everyday ailment, like plants first. There's a plant for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've been demonized and called wacky if they try to prescribe you a natural supplement in lieu of a pill.
But for you, Leighton, you just need a cup of peppermint tea. You just need to cool down a little bit.
Well, I'm very...
If you're running hot, you need the Chinese medicine where you cool it down.
We call it pitta vata.
Exactly.
In Ayurvedic. Hot and fiery. I think that's what it is. It's fiery and there's... I forget which ones... I've been told pitta vata, but I forget which one's hot. And you're right. Peppermint tea is a great way to slow down. But I kind of enjoy, bouncing around.
Well, that's it. And if you can function in that way, then it's definitely not a medical issue. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And plus it keeps me inspired to go further, faster, harder, longer. Because let's face it, I'm on a mission from God is, really, encourage people to keep an open mind and try these practices at home and see the benefits of both composting and applying extracts to their food so that their food does become medicine again. I think that's a burden that you can't tread lightly on. You've got to respect that gift that was given you. I think Mark Twain said it best. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out what you're here to do. It's not exactly correct. It's not perfectly. I think it's when you figure out what you're here for, or something like that. But very impressive words. And I feel bad because I see a lot of people just stumbling around blindly, not really knowing what they want to do, and they don't like what they're being forced to do to support themselves. And it's sad. And I get up every day and I'm like, oh my God, look where I get to live. Look what I get to do. And I'm not going to say I'd never worry about money. Of course I do. That's common. But what I think the key to it is you go, okay, Leighton, you have a right to worry about that, but you don't have a right to let it control you. You accept the feeling, acknowledge the feeling, respect it, but then, okay, I got it. Thank you. I'm moving on. I'm going to get back to work and focus on what I know I can do, or a difference that I know I can make. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, is in that fear of whether it's money or death. That's the crazy part. Like, Amy, my dad was a super religious guy. He was an accolade at the church. He often gave sermons, or not sermons, the shorts, the lessons. Deacon multiple years. And when he was at his end, he was fighting. He was just fighting. And I'm like, Dad, it's okay. You preach about the afterlife, and you're not dying. You're just transforming into a new energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. But he was so scared to die at the end that it was sad that this religious person who had been taught and preaching to others not to fear death, and accept God with an open heart and an open mind, and know that this isn't the end. This is just the beginning of the next journey. And that's that fear, Amy. And it's sad that so many people let that control their life instead of embrace it and say, okay, if I'm scared of that, maybe not death. If I'm scared of heights, maybe I got to go to the top of a building, look off the edge, right? Attack those fears. Don't let them control you. And this is way off subject from where we were. That's what I love about this podcast.
It circles back to those farmers, because there's that leap of faith, and what's right or wrong at the end of the day. When things are off kilter. When you're not in line with your purpose and something feels off, and it creates that feeling within you of like, it can manifest in different ways, but like depression, anger, fear, whatever it is, like you can feel that in your being. And we're very lucky that by being in service to the natural world and to the soil and to that wider community, that we wake up each morning with a deep sense of purpose. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if every one of the farmers throughout the world got to wake up without that fear too, with knowing that they have the tools that they need in order to replenish the soil? And that's the mission that we're on.
And replenish it in a way that costs them way less money. They're not being controlled. They're not being ratcheted up every year as the yields go down. Their costs of fertilizers go up.
They're not being exposed to the toxic chemicals.
Yep. Until someday they can't make it end. I mean, they have the highest suicide rate of anybody now, and that's horrifying. It used to be dentists, because they're every day they're giving pain to every one of their patients, and that was documented.
Wow. I wonder with the dentists is also because they were kind of told that was the career to go into, but they didn't necessarily choose it, which takes us back to purpose again.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the farmers, actually, one of the farmers whose story I've just told, he didn't choose farming. He was a multi-generational farmer who got the farm. And he so nearly quit. He was going to quit. He was done. He'd been through some big life events that just made him question everything. But then he discovered regenerative ag, and that brought back that passion, and that brought back that drive. And he was just like, this has I can make such a difference here, because not only am I going to restore the health of my farm over, in his case, he thinks it's a 10-year transition. Like, it can be like what we think 4 to 7 years. It's probably a good number.
1 to
2. You're a real optimist.
Well, I've done it.
You've done it. Well, there you go.
Over and over and over again. And it's just a matter of how quick you want to do it. If you dive in, yeah. I've taken a highly polluted synthetic field that had been in corn, for 60 years. And what I told the owner was Harvey Hubble. His dad was the guy that opened our eyes to understanding the galaxy, which they named the telescope after, or modern astronomy is what he brought to the table. And so he had a farmer that planted corn on his farm so that he got some income to pay the taxes, because he was in a very expensive part of Connecticut. And by having a certain amount of ag land, you get put into a bracket where you don't pay a lot for taxes, only on your structures, like your houses and stuff. So that was part of the way he could afford to have this big spread. And so I got introduced to him through his head gardener. She took care of vegetables, flowers. He loved nature, right? He really enjoyed it. Had some hiking trails and stuff. She came to a conference where I was talking. And so after I got done talking, she ran up to me. She's like, I need you to meet my boss. I need you to meet my boss. And I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. I'm around. When would you like it? Well, can you come today? And I'm like, not today, but I can come tomorrow. What time works for you? I'll just adjust my schedule. So I went over there the next day, and she introduced me to Harvey. Harvey's like, look, this was corn last year, and we want to plant hay here. And I said, well, what have you done? Because corn is very kind of heavy fertilizer. There's probably all kinds of residues in there. And he goes, well, my farmer spread manure, and then he seeded it with a special blend for his cows. He was a dairy farmer, to substitute some of the other things that they don't get from corn. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really need to know the seed mix. I just need to do some tests. I mean, basic chemistry, saturated paste, blah blah blah, and then I'll figure out what kind of life is in it. I'll microscope it. I said, but what I think I need to do is I'll need to do a application of compost extract now in spring, and then I'll need to do a feeding in the summer, where we're going to spray hormone like kelp and some molasses to stimulate the biology, because at that point in the height of the summer, hays and grasses tend to slough off the excess roots because they don't have the energy to maintain them, because they're too hot up top, trying to cool themselves off. And then in the fall, we'll come back and do another application. And he goes, perfect. And so, in spring, it was, kind of sketchy. There was more weeds than there was really, the plants that he had wanted to cultivate. But by summer, most of the weeds had fallen at back, and the hay was starting to really thicken up. And then by fall, oh my God, it was gorgeous. Like, you could stick your finger down in the soil, where in spring it was like, right at the surface. You just couldn't get your finger in at all. Now you could just stick your finger all the way down to your palm. So I knew we had got the tilth. And so I was out there standing there, I'd done the tilth test in a few spots, and I walked out in the middle of the road, and I was just staring at the field. And Harvey saw me out in the middle of the road, and he came running out. He's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm kind of like enjoying my work. And he goes, what do you see that I don't see? I go, Harvey, look, slow your mind down and just look. What do you see? Open your eyes. He goes, well, I see a lot of movement, and there seems to be quite a few birds. I spun around 180 degrees to look at the synthetic field across the street. And he jaw hit the ground, and he spun back, and he goes, "That field's dead. Look at mine. Look at all the life." See, that's the power of biology. That was in 9 months. We turned a rock hard, totally synthetic field, 60 years in production, to this highly regenerative, high till soil. And because you have the tilth, every time it rained, the rain sunk in. You look across the street at the other field, you see all these, runoff, all these erosion ditches, because the water can't penetrate. So 9 months, regenerative soil.
Amazing.
Just 2 applications of compost extract and 1 food. So can it be done in 1 to 2 years? No problem. And again, that wasn't with cover cropping. That wasn't supercharging. That was some manure and an overseed. That's it. So, the naysayers can naysay, but I can tell you right now, it can happen very quickly if you get behind it and push it through. And hopefully, that's a message that you can take home to other people and say, hey, if you don't believe me, call this guy Leighton. He's been doing this for 15, 17 years. I've got case after case after case. And that was the other thing Kyle told me today or yesterday. He said, Leighton, my fields are finally fluffy. He goes, they're not hard anymore. I go, I know, that's the tilth, buddy. You finally got ahead of it far enough that you're never going to have to deal with compaction again. It did take him a few years. It did, but he was also supplementing a little bit of nitrogen because he was fearful that if he just went pure biology, his crop wouldn't grow. And he did have a setback on 1 year because he just didn't have any moisture. And the year before, he had kind of finished his what's it called? The first stage of the corn, they go in and they knife in nitrogen beside it. I forget. It's basically, by the time it gets waist high, you can't go in the fields anymore. So there's a certain name for it. Somewhere between knee and waist high, you go in and do your last fertilization. And he did. He nitrogened. And because he got scared that he wasn't going to be able to get a big enough yield to turn a profit. And I kept telling him, like, you got to stop that. You got to trust the process. But finally now, 3 years, 4 years in, he's 100% on board. He's seeing the tilth. Like, the other thing too that was really cool that we did there was the first year I pounded it with I forget, like 10 gallons per acre or more of extract. And that fall, after he did cover crop, he cover cropped in fall, and then the spring he came in and he had done winter wheat, which is kind of a no-no, but he was convinced that was the way to go. And the winter wheat was pretty high, and the problem was it was not high enough to crimp or roll to break it over. If you roll it, it just stands back up, and it would have outcompeted the corn. So he called spring freaking out, like, I got a plant. I tried rolling it, nothing happens. It just pops right back up. I'm gonna have to till. And I'm like, no problem. You're gonna be all right. I just want you to set the till rig so it doesn't go down more than an inch. And he goes, yeah, but I got high spots and low spots. I go, don't worry, just set it no more than an inch. So at the low spots where the tiller goes over the top of it, you're gonna probably break the stalks anyway, because this is a disc, so it's like churning all ways. And on the high spots, yeah, maybe you get an inch and a half. Don't worry about it. And so he did it, and then his neighbor caught him out there standing in the field, looking at these giant clods. And they'd never seen that before. When you pick up soil out there, it just falls between your fingers. Well, now he's picking up these giant clods, and they're staying intact in his hand. And he's got worms. So he's calling me, like, freaking out, going, I got worms everywhere. That's a good thing, Kyle. Don't worry. They're not going to eat your corn.
He hasn't seen worms before. Wow.
Well, this is the farmers. Like, they freak out. They think this is a bad thing, right?
Oh.
And so his neighbor, who's third generation, 70s, 80s years old, stops his pickup truck, and you see Kyle's out there walking around, throwing clods around, like acting weird. And he walks out in the field. He goes, what are you doing? You okay? Did you lose your mind? And Kyle goes, no, look, I got clods. And the farmer's like, yeah, yeah. So he goes, look at the ground. It's full of worms. And the guy goes, oh my God, I've never seen a worm out here in my life. Think about that. 80-year-old guy has never seen a worm in that soil in his life. And in 2 applications over 2 years, he got earthworms. So that's the power of nature coming back. We call it necromass. So that's the seed bank that Kayla talks about. Like after a wildfire, the seed bank comes out, and the indigenous come out. Well, it's true with worms. It's true in some cases that protozoa and fungi will come back via air or animals, even smoke from wildfires. We know that, but the problem is it takes a long time, and that's where dissolved organic matter, especially dissolved organic matter that's biologically rich, can turn it in as little as 9 months to a year, if you get after it. But if you don't do anything, then yeah, it probably will take 5 years for that necromass to have the right conditions to come back.
I think it's different for everyone, right? Because everyone's piece of land is different. Everyone's dealing with different acreage. Some people have just animals. Some people have just the plants and a varying range of equipment. So, from what I've seen, it's a case of these farmers taking stock of what they have and what they can make use of and what their land's asking for, and then connecting the right tools.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it too is soil matrix. I mean, out here in California, you have a lot of clay in your soil, and I don't think I told you this, that when I went back to Kayla's site 2 weeks after the application to do my biology, I was able to take my whole hand and bury it up to my wrist in that clay, and it was all little micro aggregates, so it can soften up compacted hard pan clay. So again, it's like, yeah, if you have that situation and you have erosion, all you've got to do is buy enough MJ to put in your boom sprayer. Instead of spraying nitrogen, spray it twice and let it go, and you will break it up to a point where now the water will sink. Like if I wanted to go back there after that recent rain, I'm gonna go back there this winter after a real good rain, and just look to see how well that soil did. Because I bet you won't see any erosion on those real steep slopes in the back of the property.
No, I'm excited to go back and see as well.
Oh, you're closer. That's not fair.
We'll go together.
All right. Well, it's been an hour. I so appreciate you taking the time to come on to the podcast today. I know we drifted a little bit.
Perfect.
You know what? Something else I'd love you to do after you've polished this, documentary, when you're done, and Mo and Ron and everybody's happy with it and thrilled. I'd love you to come back on this podcast and air it and just let the audience watch it. And, hey, maybe ESS will join us. Maybe they won't, but I'd really love to have it.
A little premiere. I love that. That's a great
premiere. That's the word I was looking for. Have your first premiere or whatever, second premiere. I don't care. I know my audience is really into this stuff, and so it would be it. And again, I dropped a couple tears, man. I'm not a winner
as well. There's a bit where I was just like, it just had cracking me up, like you and Mo just like picking each other apart. And
that back and forth was amazing. I can't believe I can't believe like you got us to say those things about each other, and then the way you presented it was perfect. It was perfect.
Well, I didn't know it was going to go down like that when I'm interviewing, but when I'm going through it, I'm like, these guys are this is brilliant. These guys are tussling.
I'm looking forward and I'd love to premiere it on our channel. And guys in the chat, if you want to win Leighton's chorus, we're going to do the draw here in a few minutes, but you got to put in #biology for your chance to win.
And we'll give you we'll keep it open for another 5 minutes or so that people can go ahead and tag it. But yeah, just go through your process, do what you got to do. No rush here. And whenever you're comfortable and ready to, fully air out, yeah, we'd love to have you come back on. And you have the link now, so you can just, book in advance whenever you think you're ready, and we'll go from there. But I guarantee you, this audience will just absolutely chew it up. And again, it was so inspirational. It was like Biggest Little Farm. I walked away from the end of that going, I'm not doing enough. Like I gotta get after this.
You're inspired by yourself.
Well, but Mo and Dave and all the whole crew, the whole thing is like
Kayla, Matt, and Dave, all the work that they're doing.
Yeah, and Kayla was amazing too. And she was such a strong human for what she went through. And I can't imagine. Like I know she had a shell around her. There was a couple times I could see a little crack in the shell and kind of feel her emotion oozing out, like how painful it was to have lost that property and hurt the soils. And I think you came back, significantly reduced in metals. So that site's ready to go now. When she wanted to.
Yeah. Her mom's decided to rebuild, so they're starting that process.
Nice. Do they have any idea how long that's going to take?
Oh, I think forever. I don't want to say that on their behalf, but Malibu's kind of in a bit of a holding pattern right now. People are putting in their paperwork, but it's not coming back very quickly.
So I don't understand why. I mean, they have water, they have sewer, they're not on the beach. Why would they stall them? Is it politics?
I daren't say. I'm not involved in local politics. I just know that Malibu City are particularly finicky about the details of things.
That's a shame. It's hard enough that they got devastated by the fire. It's almost like torture to have them.
You would have thought they should just be able to get on and do it, especially if you're building like if the same house.
Footprint. Right, same footprint.
Yeah. And if you know what the rules are in terms of like how the windows should be and everything, then free reign. Build yourself your shelter. Like this is your land and this is where you deserve to live, and you've worked your whole life in order to own this, and it's just burnt down. Like that. Yeah, I don't understand the system. It's different on the coast. Those coastal houses have a huge impact on the environment. That's a bigger debate.
Yeah, they were grandfathered in because those septic systems were built in the 50s and 60s, and they were basically what we call a leach pit. So all of that was going right out into the ocean. So I understand the problem with that. Not to say they couldn't run a sewer line down the PCH, but now you're getting into a big expense and blah 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 blah. So, but up on the mountains where she is, I just think that's cruel and unusual punishment to not allow them to just rebuild.
Well, there's people. The Wolsey fire was like 8 years ago now, maybe not. Well, they're getting to the finishing line now.
Finally, their insurance companies paid the people.
People are finishing their houses, having gone through the process 9 years later. That's a full 9 years from when your house burns down to the rebuild.
It's crazy.
Total insanity. Well, why don't you do your house cleaning, Ken, and then we'll do the draw and see who won.
Okay, guys. We have Andy should be back on Wednesday. He had a major migraine last Wednesday, so we didn't get to the show. So hopefully he's feeling better this Wednesday, and we'll get to that show. Other than that, I'm hoping that we have Kyle with all his results back on soon. And yeah, if we can have Mo and the guys on when we run the premiere to talk about it afterwards, that would be fantastic. So Amy, maybe you can kick them in the butt and get them set up for that. Okay.
They haven't seen it yet, but hopefully they're happy with it, and then we can we'll get everyone online, because there's a few people that haven't been featured in the film, but they're still very much part of it, like Ron and Gary, Craig.
Yep. And I got lucky. She sent it to me. She spoiled me.
Well, I just thought it was important that you saw it before we had this. We could talk about it.
Yeah, no, that was a really impressive work. Thank you for all that hard work. I know you did way more work than you got paid for. That's for sure.
No comment.
Well, guys, we're gonna run the contest. So if you haven't put in hashtag biology, you know, what are you doing? Guys. Anyway, we're gonna draw. We've only got 5 entries. Hopefully next week we'll do this again and we'll have more entries. But here we go, guys. I should have a drum set so we could do, you know, the drum, you know, coming in. Okay, let's be buds. You are the winner. So what you need to do is send me an email at it's all about the biology at gmail.com. So it's all about the biology at gmail.com. And I will get you set up to get your free course to learn Leighton's online course. This is an online course, guys, to learn how Leighton does his composting. It's amazing. You're going to really want to, you know, take it in, sink it in, and go out there and do it, because we all know that composting is breaking down that material. The biology is in there, eating it up, and that's what we're looking for, is that biology, because that's what's really going to make your plants, you know, break out into joyous song and feed you what you need in your bodies.
And remember this one thing: if you're west of the Rockies, you're going to have to water it. If you're east of the Rockies, it's self-watering because it's hugelkultur compost making. Once you get that log soaking wet, it will hold the moisture indefinitely for 6 months until you harvest. So just keep that in mind. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Amy, for coming on today. You are just an amazing, inspirational person. Your work is insane. I mean, you got to see some of her black and white photos. Like, they're just incredible pictures. And not to mention her documentary says, and hopefully the website was up enough that people caught it and they can check out her YouTube channel. And Ken, as always, thank you for all behind the scenes work and making this happen every week. And I really appreciate it.
You bet. And guys, her links are all in the description. So you can get those links from the description. Just click on it. It'll take you right to her YouTube channel, her LinkedIn, or her Instagram, etc. So, Amy, thank you so much for what you do. I greatly appreciate the time you've given us today.
Thank you, Ken.
Agreed, 100%.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, until Wednesday.